and every divine infinite human being world that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And today finds Kiki and her tutu and me here in the beautiful village of Erici, City of Love, my favorite city in the world, above the clouds, and I'm right in front of the castle of the Divine Feminine, the Goddess of Love, Venere. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on right now, and I'm going to go into much more detail with my guest Olivia from Russia now, and we're going to talk about the dark flowering infliction and then how to resolve that with the bright flowering. So it's going to be very positive, but it's something that's really important right now. And the problem is there's a lot of confusion going on because there was, especially on the Krystic path of ascension, a lot of beautiful work done by a lot of beautiful people with the indigo shield up till 2012, and they actually are responsible for us being here now because they really saved us. They saved the integrity of our earth and I think our whole time matrix, allowing us to go into Failsafe, which happened after that because the dark agenda, that's been ongoing for 260 billion years, kept being pushed through the external creation to a point of no return. So the fail-safe mechanism that was inserted into our time matrix back then in 260 billion years, when the first distortion came from a parallel, time matrix, the Borgia, which is like the Borg you see in Star Trek, this AI kind of mechanism, infiltrated ours and started a whole, just imagine 260 billion years of a chess match that we basically lost. So they kicked in the failsafe, which said, Infinite said, look, finite, you have had your chess match, you've played your games long enough, it's been a great experiment, we love you, come home, time to come home, you've caused enough damage, and now we're injecting the serum that's going to cure all this from the cosmos, from eternal internal creation to solve this. So the problem is coming from within, not without. It's coming through with this divine plasma codes because we've moved past the light body, which has been infected, and we're moving into plasma codes. The only problem is, as usual, they began to create a reversal plasma because they've already done it with the other bodies, and the light codes were reversed. So now they've created an internal plasma. So what the plasma is, and we'll talk about this more in detail, but we have actually beautiful flowering lotuses that come from our chakras. Yes, we have light lotuses that most people are familiar with, but we also have these plasma buds that are flowers that are bright flowering, and they're popping up and they're drinking in all this plasma and they're transmuting all of our bodies. So your DNA, your Christ of light body, all that will also be activated, but first internally from the plasma bodies. But because of that, one, we're going to talk about the dark flowering, and two, a lot of very high Krystic people have been dark flowered with this dark flower affliction because they track you through lifetimes, they seek you out, and then they take over. Their goal is to take over a very highly encrypted 44-strand FEM, body, so they have access into this realm. And the war now is being raged. We're seeing it on the surface between the dark flowering inflictions, those dark flowered, and those bright flowered. And their objective, even though Earth is ascending, and 2/3 of Earth will, return to her proper ascension via Orion Earth, via Arias, via all the different steps of dimensional upgrades in frequency. But there will be that part of net Earth that, as I spoke about in my book, I'm Elizabeth Monroy, the author of The Infinite Human, and of course the Infinite Human Talk Show. And I talked about earth shedding. It's almost like a scab of the lower frequencies, which is what we see right now. 3D earth. 3D earth will not ascend. It will continue to descend, deconstruct, decode, dematerialize until it eventually ends up space dust. So so I'm a guide. I'm here to help guide you along this kind of slippery slope. It's not so bad, but there's all these deceptions that are being put into place to keep you in that earth, so you are part of the descending, so they can feed on you, because you're their food, you're their collateral, you're their money source, you're their currency, you're everything to them. And this whole war has been waged 260 billion years for you and for our earth and for our time matrix. Well, they're not going to get the earth, all of it. They're not going to get the time matrix, but now they want to take as many souls with them. And the problem with the dark flowering is that they can come in and possess you afterwards. And if you get 30%, that's a kind of a tipping zone. So we'll go into that to more detail, but I just want to give you a heads up, because there's a lot of really wonderful, loving people. Some of them I've even had on my talk show, and they probably have really good intentions, and many of them I've talked to, via social media. And heads up, my Facebook, Elizabeth Monroy, has been terminated again because I raised the question, are they dark flowering people through AI, through films, through talk shows, through the phantom signals attached to all these broadcasts? And I got a lot of interesting responses, but my Facebook page was taken down right away. Elizabeth Monroy. I'm still here, hosted by my Tantri twin, Peter, who's always there for me. And he's in the higher dimensions, beam steering me and keeping my arse in gear. But basically what's happened, and it was happening to me too, because I was not sure who to believe when I first came into the whole colonic, and I was remembering everything. And when people were talking about, the history and the Vecca codes and the Psalms, it just sparked my memory. But unfortunately, the pre-shield, 2020, the people who are holding true to the freedom teachings, and my hat's off to them, because they've been preserving them, but many of them are not aware of what's going on now, and this next step that is crucial in the fail-safe and the working with the plasma energies. So they are still using, and many of them, then there's some very deceptive dark flowered films, that are using the freedom teaching colonic science to take you off track. So they're basically using the truth to tell lies. So it's a very tricky time right now, and I'm doing my best working with Peter, who I'm going vertical, and he's in the higher dimensions of the God Source worlds, the Cosmea, where we're going, and he's helping me very much. And I'm just been very ill, if you noticed my last show, but it's kind of like a purging of all the dark flowering that I had too, because we just had a wonderful activation. And if you want to know more about this, Arias.com, Asiana just did a great, she's holding Hostmasters now, and she did a wonderful activation that stops dark flowering. And you pay for it, but that's her job. She does that. And I really recommend it. But and all the information is there. I always say go to source directly, and then go as close as you can. And she is speaker one for this. She is the one who's bringing this directly down from the Guardians. So I do very much now. I wasn't sure 2 years ago, but after watching and waiting and getting a lot of information from Peter, I'm very sure about this pathway. I think it's the only living, breathing, continuing pathway, because the rest was very good when it was, but it's not continuing anymore. So I recommend it. But anyway, it's a time of great shifting. It's a very touchy, sticky, wicky kind of time, and I'm going to do my best to help guide you through that. So please tune in to the Infinite Human Talk Show, the new Infinite Human Talk Show, and we're going to get through this. All right. So ciao from now, from the beautiful City of Love here, Edici.